Okay, I have another Danny Masterson prison update. I made a video about him last week, just announcing that he had finally been sent to North Kern State Prison. But we recently got a few more details about what his daily schedule is in prison, which pretty much what I expected, because I have also been through what he's going through right now, and pretty much any inmate in any prison system, no matter the state, has to go through when they first arrive the reception and classification or evaluation process. And I explained a little bit last video. I'll go ahead and recap before I show you what his exact schedule is and some of the more key details of what he's allowed, what he's not, and this what is this special privilege group U that it's called, that he's been placed into at this prison. So the reception, classification, evaluation process, basically that's when they're taking in these new inmates and they need to look at all the information about this inmate before they decide, do they need special housing? Do they need, to go to this prison? Would they be better at this prison? Do they need a more specialized prison, which is more of like a medical yard? It has, it's closer to a hospital, or just, more medical features, or, some yards. This is where if you have like certain types of prescription medications that you have to get, they can't withhold that from you. You have to get, they generally, kind of group those inmates together on like a medical yard, they may call it. And so basically what they're looking at is, number one, have you ever been in prison before? If you haven't, don't worry about it. If you have, what did your file look like the first time, or however many times you've been in prison? Did you have any stabbings? Did you have any assaults? Did you get caught with contraband? What are you known for? Are you a risk? Or do we already know that you're a problematic inmate? If so, you're probably going to go, to a worser yard off top. Other than that, it's pretty standard. They're going to, do the medical things, just a general checkup. It sounds more extensive than it is. They're going to get your weight. They're going to get your height. They're going to put the little stethoscope on you, on your heart, make sure you're beating correct, look in your ears, and just make sure there's no immediate medical problems, so they can't get in any trouble for not, doing what they need to do for you. They're going to ask you, do you have any medical problems? Is there anything on your medical history we need to know about? And if there's not, cool. Process is much faster and easier. And if there is, they're going to have to go look at that. And they mention in this update, this process could take up to 90 days. Now, it's more common, but we're talking your average inmate here, not a celebrity Danny Masterson. 30 to 40 days is how long it takes. But it can take up to that long when you have all these special things coming in. Do you have prescription? Do you have things they need to look into, and they need to contact your primary healthcare provider and find out these things and get verification on these things? There's going to be a mental health check. They're going to have you come talk to a psychiatrist. They're going to ask you general questions just to see where you're at mentally. If there's any answers you give that set off alarms, and of course they're going to ask you if you're feeling like unaliving yourself, things like that. On top of that, they're going to look at your charge. What are you in here for? How much time were you sentenced to? Of course, they're not going to send you to a work camp yard if you're sentenced to life. That would be a huge mistake, a security risk. Why would that inmate not try to escape? He has nothing to lose. Things like that. That's your most basic example, but that comes into play when figuring out, where do you need to go? All right. So that's what they're doing with him right now. I imagine it'll take the better part of 90 days just because he is a well-known celebrity. So they are, he's not going to be treated as quickly in and out as your average inmate who doesn't have all these special complications. Okay. So that's just to sum that up. Now, let's get into what his exact schedule is for day to day. It says in the article they've placed him in what is called Privilege Group U. Now, when you hear that, you might think, he gets privileges in the U group. What does that mean? Nothing really. It doesn't really mean he gets special privileges. It's kind of, from everything I've read, and I'll read it off to you here in a second, it lines up with everything that I've ever known inmates in my state to get as far as privileges or restrictions during this classification process. it's known, it's infamous, that period in your prison sentence is the worst because it sucks, just to put it plain. You're not allowed much freedom. You're only allowed usually about an hour. I mean, they call it 23 and 1 hour out of your cell, but that hour is broken up into, okay, 10-15 minutes to eat breakfast, 15 lunch, 15 dinner, showers, usually 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, something like that. So it's very broken up. You're not just out for an hour, and maybe once a month you might get to go out for rec, if you're even there long enough to get that rec that time, one time a month. So Danny Masterson, let me read you straight off this article here. As Danny Masterson, 47, entered North Kern State Prison. On Wednesday, he's set to go through a process and be watched closely in the first 90 days. The actor, who was sentenced to 30 years to life, reportedly has to go through a reception and classification process that could last the first 90 days and will be in a group called Privilege Group U. TMZ reports that Danny's group will have strict restrictions, including no family visits, limited entertainment access, and no access to personal property. He also gets one phone call within the first week of entering the facility, and then for the remainder of his time in Group U, he only gets one call per month. Now, here's the thing about that. Nothing I read in that paragraph is any different than what I went through. Okay. I think the word privilege group, you or whatever, just throws you off and makes you think, oh, old Hollywood and the privilege group. I bet he's getting rotisserie chicken every night. Doesn't seem to be the case. I guess that's just what they call these different sections, and he's in that one. One phone call your first week. That's how it was for me. One phone call a month after that. Yeah. The family visitation and stuff. I mean, you're usually not even there long enough for your family to, because you have to, anybody can't just walk in off the street and visit you. That you got to send out paperwork to this person. They have to fill it out. Who are they? How do they know you? How long are they known you? What's their name? All this information to make sure that you're not just getting random criminals and thugs to come see you. And the main assumption is they're coming to see you to smuggle in contraband, because that's the main worry with visitation. That's why they care about who comes to visit you and doing a screening process. So by the time any of that even happens, usually you're done with the classification process. And why that matters is once you're done and once he's done, he's not even going to stay at North Kern State Prison. This isn't where he's doing his time at. They're taking all this information in to decide where they're going to send him for this 30 years to life sentence that he has. So, all that he's not allowed, and he's limited entertainment access. There's no TV down there for the cell block. But when he gets sent to where he's going, there'll be a TV. That's just how it is in any classification and reception area of a designated yard. No access to personal property. What you're not even, it's not like you get to come in with a briefcase and a Chanel trunk full of your best clothes. I mean, he didn't come in with any property. I mean, his personal property is what they give him: state regulated soap, toothpaste, toothbrush, a comb, and maybe a pair of socks and a pair of boxers. I mean, that is his property. So, I mean, he has access to that. I think personal property is the exact term they use when you want to order something like, it depends on what they allow there, but this could be something like a reading lamp, a Walkman radio, a hot pot just to heat up water for coffee, and just things you can buy on commissary like ramen noodle soups and stuff. That's how you make your food. That's considered personal property. So he's not even allowed, no one there is allowed to buy any commissary or anything. So that's no different than anything I've ever seen. Doesn't seem like he's being treated any better or worse than your average inmate who's going through this process. That's what I'm trying to make clear here. Now, it says Danny will apparently still have access to things like the yard and recreation services, but he won't get his full prison privileges until the classification process is finished. Sources close to him told TMZ he showed exceptional strength of mind and spirit during his time in the LA County Jail before he was transferred to North Kern, and he's feeling hopeful about his chances of winning his appeal. Well, I don't know about that. I'm not a lawyer. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But as far as, the prison part, he's allowed to access the yard. Well, of course, you're allowed to go on the yard to eat. You got to walk to the cafeteria, get your food, and come back. I guarantee you and you have to walk to see the psychiatrist. You have to walk to medical to see the doctor, and that's access to the yard. I don't know if they're just trying to make it sound like he gets to go around and do jumping jacks and cartwheels all over the place. That's your access to the yard. It's nothing special. And recreation services, like I said, maybe once a month, you might go out for like 30 minutes and just take in some sunlight. Yeah, other than that, it all sounds pretty standard to me. But again, the real thing here is, where's he going to be sent to after this process is done? I could see it taking more than the usual 30 to 40 days, maybe 60. That's kind of how it happened with Alec Murdaugh. He's a high profile guy. Took a little longer than average, but not too long. I've seen guys stay there 6 months who really have a lot of issues, and they just like check off everything in the book. I have this problem, this problem, this problem. So when he gets sent to his official yard, that's when I want to do some research. I want to find some guys who have done some time on that yard. I'm going to use my connections to reach out to them, get some information about how that yard really is, how it really runs, what he's really in for, and what his experience will really be like on that specific yard. Because you can't go by, old prison works like this and this happens here. It's really all about the yard. Every yard is different in many ways, and it's the same in other ways. But we need to find out where he's going, and then I'll look into doing some research on that, and then we can come up with a real analysis of what is he in for, right? So stay tuned for that, and if you want to see how that goes as I keep up with this story and these updates, hey, consider subscribing, and thanks for watching. See you next time.